How's everyone doing? Thank you, Kishore. Very nice kirtan. Rishi, you want to do this job today? All right. How's everyone doing? Good? Good? All right. Can I have that, Uti? Yeah. At one point I'll tell you when we'll dip off from it. But and Deidre's online. So that's very good. All right. So what we're going to do is read Bhagavad Gita. So luckily I have messages on here. All right, we're going to do Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, verse 3. We'll do it on here, so no books is fine. Am I in the way, Rishi? Okay, so, but we can all do Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Jai. So, okay, chapter 13, verse 3, and that will get up behind me in a second. 13:3. Kaushik. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Good. So, yeah, that thing, and then there we go. All right. Are you guys ready for some transcendental knowledge?
Yeah.
Well, Jai. What's that?
Always.
Always, Madhu. Good. I'm glad to see you. Madhu, come so I can see you more. You get lost back there. Good. There you go. I don't want to see anyone hiding. Only Tej is hiding. But I'll move to find you, Tej. And Hariram, you're trying to hide, but you're too effulgent to hide. So, okay, good. I don't have to stall anymore. It's here. All right. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi. Sarvakshetreshu bharata. Kshetra kshetragyayo jnanam. Yataj jnanam matam mama. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi. Sarvakshetreshu bharata. Kshetra kshetragyayor jnanam. Yataj jnanam matam mama. Anyone want to give it a go? Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi. Sarvakshetreshu bharata. Kshetra kshetragyayor jnanam. Yatad jnanam matam mama. One more from the audience, please. Maybe a lady. Yeah, good. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi. Sarvakshetreshu bharata. Kshetra kshetragyayo jnanam. Yatajnanam matam mama. Jai. All right, repeat after me. Kshetragyam, the knower. Cha, also. Api, certainly. Mam, me. Vidhi, no. Sarva, all. Kshetreshu, in bodily fields. Bharata, O son of Bharata. Kshetra, field of activities, the body. Kshetragyayo, the knower of the field. Jnanam, knowledge. Yat, that which is taught. Tat, that. Jnanam, knowledge. Matam, opinion. Mama, that. All right. So here we go. O sign of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies. And to understand this body and its owner is called knowledge. That is my opinion. Krishna's opinion is a little bit more than an opinion. It's the absolute truth. His opinions are very important. So we try and understand Krishna's opinion and the opinions of the pure devotees. So this is now the opinion of the pure devotee Srila Prabhupada in his Bhaktivedanta purports. So A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Okay. While discussing, you could read along up here. While discussing the subject of this body and the owner of the body, the soul and the supersoul, we shall find three different topics of study: the Lord, the living entity, and matter. In every field of activities, in every body, there are two souls, the individual soul and the supersoul. Because the supersoul is the plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Krishna says, I am also the knower, but I am not the individual owner of the body. I am the super-knower. I am present in every body as the Paramatma, or the supersoul. One who studies the subject matter of the field of activity and the knower of the field very minutely, in terms of this Bhagavad Gita, can attain to knowledge. The Lord says, I am the knower of the field of activities in every individual body. The individual may be the knower of his own body, but he is not in knowledge of other bodies. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is present as the Supersoul in all bodies, knows everything about all bodies. He knows all the different bodies of all the various species of life. A citizen may know everything about his patch of land, but the king knows not only his palace, but all the properties possessed by the individual citizens. Similarly, one may be the proprietor of the body individually, but the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of all bodies. The king is the original proprietor of the kingdom, and the citizen is the secondary proprietor. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the supreme proprietor of all bodies. The body consists of the senses. The Supreme Lord is Rishikesh, which means controller of the senses. He is the original controller of the senses, just as the king is the original controller of all the activities of the state. And the citizens are secondary controllers. The Lord also says, I am also the knower. This means that he is the super-knower. The individual soul knows only his particular body. In the Vedic literatures, it is stated as follows: Kshetrani hi sarirani bijam chapi shubha tani veti sayogatma tatak kshetragya uchyate. This body is called the Kshetra, and within it dwells the owner of the body, and the Supreme Lord, who knows both body and the owner of the body. Therefore he is called the knower of all fields. Come in, Megan. The distinction between the activities, the owner of activities, and the supreme owner. Hold on, Siri's getting in my way on my phone. Where are we? The distinction between the field of activities, the owner of activities, and the supreme owner of activities is described as follows. Perfect knowledge of the constitution of the body, the constitution of the individual soul, and the constitution of the supersoul is known in terms of Vedic literature as jnanam. That is the opinion of Krishna. To understand both the soul and the supersoul as one yet distinct is knowledge. One who does not understand the field of activity and the knower of activity is not in perfect knowledge. One has to understand the position of Prakriti, nature, and Purusha, the enjoyer of nature and the Ishwar, the controller, the knower who dominates or controls nature and the individual soul. One should not confuse the three in their different capacities. One should not confuse the painter, the painting, and the easel. This material world, which is the field of activities, is nature, and the enjoyer of nature is the living entity. And above them both is the supreme controller, the personality of Godhead. It is stated in the Vedic language, Bhokta Bhogyam Paritaram Chamatva Sarvam Proktam Trividham Brahma Metat. There are three Brahman conceptions. Prakriti is Brahman as the field of activities, and the Jiva, individual soul, is also Brahman, and is trying to control material nature. And the controller of both of them is also Brahman, but he is the factual controller. And this is a little bit of a long purport, the last paragraph. In this chapter, it will also be explained that out of the two knowers, one is fallible, that's us, and the other is infallible. One is superior, and the other is subordinate. One who understands the two knowers of the field to be one and the same contradicts the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who states very clearly that I am also the knower of the field of activity. One who misunderstands a rope to be a serpent is not in knowledge. There are different kinds of bodies, and there are different owners of the bodies, because each individual soul has his individual capacity of lording it over material nature. God bless you. There are different bodies, but the Supreme also is present in them as the controller. The word Cha is significant, for it indicates the total number of bodies. That is the opinion of Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan. Krishna is the super soul present in each and every body part from the individual soul. And Krishna explicitly says here that the super soul is the controller of both the field of activities and the finite enjoyer. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Shpadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shmita Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Prachayani Nirvisheshani Vari Paschati Deshtaina Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All right, so let's begin. So, what is called knowledge here? We should understand that Krishna is the knower in all bodies, and to understand our body and its owner is called knowledge. Like if you understand like what's really going on with your body, and if you understand also who is really behind your body, this is the knowledge. There's actually a lot that's knowledge. So we're going to go to 13.8. Actually, before we go to 13.8, we're going to go to Isha Upanishad 10. Upanishad 10. So I will give you guys a quick 13.8 is lists all the things that Krishna consists of, that is knowledge. And this part is important, this knowledge part. It is important because, why? Because we're in the modes of material nature. And we're all being delusioned. You're actually, everyone here is pretty advanced, like devotee. But we're all being illusioned by so many things, so many misconceptions that we're having about the world around us. So these are certain qualities that we could help cultivate. And actually, good news is just by becoming devotional, which is the highest knowledge, you automatically cultivate these qualities. So, Isha Upanishad 10 is here. The wise have explained that one result is derived from the culture of knowledge, and that a different result is obtained from the culture of nescience. Now, Prabhupada So there's two paths. We can take the path of what? Vidya or what? Avidya. So does anyone know why everyone suffers in the material world? I'll give you a hint. We just said one of those things. Manny.
Loss and
what's it all stemming from? Yes, avidya is ignorance. So that's why we're all suffering. Like, to the degree that we're suffering in this material world, it's actually due to our ignorance. You know. So here we go. Thank you. Meghna, do you think you can scroll down for me? Okay, so as advised in chapter 13 of the Bhagavad Gita, 8 through 12, one should culture knowledge in the following way. So Prabhupada's letting you know, and Krishna's letting you know. Actually, this is 13, 8 to 12, all the things. And Prabhupada nicely in this purport, he just lists them. So, one should become a perfect gentleman and learn to give proper respect to others. That's the first one. And actually that's humility. That's the word is humility for that in the Bhagavad Gita. One should not pose himself as a religionist simply for name and fame. And that's also pridelessness. One should not become a source of anxiety to others by the actions of his body, by the thoughts of his mind, or by his words. This is
excuse me, can you repeat where this came from?
the Ishopanishad. Ishopanishad. One should learn forbearance, even in the face of provocation from others. So this is tolerance. The last one was also nonviolence. One should learn to avoid duplicity in his dealings with others. One should search out a bona fide spiritual master who can lead him gradually to the stage of spiritual realization. And one must submit himself to such a spiritual master, render him service, and ask relevant questions. 7. In order to approach the platform of self-realization, one must follow the regulative principles enjoined in the revealed scriptures. 8. One must be fixed in the tenets of the revealed scriptures. 9. One should completely refrain from practices which are detrimental to the interest of self-realization. 10. One should not accept more than he requires for the maintenance of the body. 11. One should not falsely identify himself with the gross material body, nor should one consider those who are related to his body to be his own. That's hard. That one's really hard. Go back up to that one, Rishi. To falsely identify, yourself with your body, that's hard enough as it is. And then, not to think that those who are related to you are your relatives and they're super, in one sense they are super important, but in the other sense, they're no more important than, all of the living entities. 12. One should always remember that as long as he has a material body, he must face the miseries of repeated birth, old age, disease, and death. That's a tough one. We always think we're going to get comfortable, it's going to work out nicely in the material world. It's all going to be good. If I just do this, it's going to be good. No, it's material world, repeated birth, old age, disease, and death. But the hope is actually that in bhakti, even that doesn't disturb you. There is no use in making plans to get rid of these miseries of the material body. The best course is to find out the means by which one may regain his spiritual identity. 13. One should not be attached to more than the necessities of life required for spiritual advancement. We need very little to just make spiritual advancement, but we want to do this and that and this and that and this and that. But you don't need to do all this and that. Just what can keep you going on your spiritual path? 14. One should not be more attached to wife, children, and home than the revealed scriptures ordain. And it's pretty much, just what the basic minimums, you need to maintain everyone. Everyone's happy enough. And you guys can all make spiritual advancement together. And then that's it. Take care of those basic necessities and keep going on the spiritual path together. One should not be happy or distressed over desirables and undesirables, knowing that such feelings are just created by the mind. That's also a tough one. You know, we have so many things we're just like always mentally conceiving, I want this, I want that. But actually even that whole I want process that you're doing in the mind, these are actually, unless we can want spiritual things, this is something of illusion. This is causing us suffering. One should become an unalloyed devotee of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and serve him with rapt attention. 17. One should develop a liking for residence in a secluded place with a calm and quiet atmosphere, favorable for spiritual culture. And one should avoid congested places where non-devotees congregate. The good news is we're a bunch of devotees congregating here. So even if it gets a little crowded with the devotees, that can be good. But still, you need to find your space. That's something like I'm also learning for myself. 18. One should become a scientist or a philosopher and conduct research into spiritual knowledge, recognizing that spiritual knowledge is permanent, whereas material knowledge ends with the death of the body. So we'll just go to, Prabhupada just summarized a lot of really important things, but we'll go to the actual verse just so you can see what Krishna said. And Prabhupada kind of, Madhu.
I didn't understand the statement.
What statement?
Fifth.
The fifth of one should learn to avoid duplicity in his dealings with others. Duplicity means that you have one thing in your heart, but you're saying things that are contrary to that to try and get your objective in your heart. So you're kind of trying to cheat them or like negotiate them or do a business deal kind of with them. So it's very, very difficult, because we learn manipulative practices since we're a child. We manipulate our parents, So this is very, very difficult. These are all things, but actually this is all knowledge. So go to 13.8. So this is all really. So everyone repeat after me. You were just there. Click on it. All right. Humility. Pridelessness. Non-violence. Tolerance. Simplicity. Approaching a bona fide spiritual master. Cleanliness. Steadiness. And self-control. Renunciation of the objects of sense gratification. Absence of false ego. The perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease. Non-attachment to children, wife, home, and the rest. And even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events. Constant and unalloyed devotion to me. Resorting to solitary places. Detachment from the general mass of people. Accepting the importance of self-realization. And philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I thus declare to be knowledge. And what is contrary to these is ignorance. So this is a long list. If you want to look how Prabhupada summarized it, you can go to Ishopanishad 10, that first paragraph. Also, you could look at his purport. This one, if you thought the other one was long, this is really long. So I spared you this one. But what's important is we cultivate this knowledge.
Realistically and balanced.
What's that? What did you say?
I said it's important to grow this knowledge, but we got to be realistical balance.
Yeah, from where you're at, and one thing at a time, one step at a time, and a lot of it just comes actually. I forget the verse, but causeless knowledge and detachment come just like when you're eating food. I should say in devotion to Krishna, causeless knowledge and detachment come just like when you eat. Your hunger and your nourishment and your satisfaction all come at once. So when you slowly take in Krishna consciousness, actually all these things will naturally come.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, just like overeat, you might puke out and not even get any of the nutrition that you were trying to get.
that is possible. You'd have to really overeat to to projectile vomit it all up. But all right. So now go to Ishopanishad verse 11. We talked about there's two paths that everyone is traversing. So this one's actually a nice instruction about what we should do. I'm sorry I'm switching you all over the place, Rishi. I'm keeping you on your toes today. But actually I have to keep myself on my toes. Are you there before me? Alright, go down. Only one who can learn the process.
Only one who can learn the process.
Of nescience?
Nescience.
What's nescience?
Like being stubborn?
Nescience means it's the opposite of science. It's nescience. It's like ignorance. What is causing complete difficulty in everybody's lives. Pretty much what is not true. You should figure out both you should learn only one who can learn the process of nescience.
Only one who can learn the process of nescience.
And that of transcendental knowledge. Side by side. Can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death. And enjoy the full blessings of immortality. So this is our kind of process. Now this is also a junior teaching. In Ishopanishad is very basic. Upanishads themselves, they're like beginning literatures so that you can actually potentially cultivate bhakti, which is like the you could say the end of the Vedas, the highest pinnacle of what the Vedas have to offer. But there's a process, and that's why in Krishna consciousness, in Bhagavad Gita in specific, Krishna goes through just practicing dharma, being sattvic, then doing karma yoga, learning to offer your work in devotion, kind of do what you're inclined to do in devotion. And by doing that, you start to cultivate this next aspect, which is jnana. And pretty much the highest jnana that you can find is bhakti. And behind all of those things that you were doing, it was bhakti all along that was giving the results of all the things that you ever did. But you have to have sambandha jnana to know to practice bhakti. That sambandha jnana means that what is your relationship with Krishna? What is his relationship with all things that exist? And that's what Bhagavad Gita teaches, the 5 subject matters, which is jiva, which is you, Ishwar, which is Krishna, Prakriti, which is the material nature, and then I'll give you a hint about material nature. It's all temporary. And you could say that's the realm of nescience. People chasing all the things of the material nature, that's like the big mistake. Don't do that one. Then there's karma, our actions and reactions, how everything works out. And then there's kala, which is time, how it's all cyclical and it's all going in creation, maintenance, destruction, and rinse and repeat for eternity. So, anyway, this is our kind of path. We got to side by side realize what is ignorance, what is the path of ignorance, that one, I've been doing my whole life, and then 2, what is the path of transcendental knowledge, and how can I traverse these paths simultaneously knowing that this is not good, and then, all right, this is good. How can I shift Keep shifting. So, Krishna tells you just that in... but first, before we go there, let's go to the last paragraph of this purport. Prabhupada says some really nice things here. So, it's a little bit more than the last paragraph. Okay, right here. This is good enough. The path of Vidya is most perfectly presented in Srimad Bhagavatam. Vidya is knowledge, by the way, which directs a human being to utilize his life to inquire into the absolute truth. The absolute truth is realized step by step as Brahman, Paramatma, and finally Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. The absolute truth is realized by the broad-minded man who has attained knowledge and detachment by following the 18 principles of the Bhagavad Gita described that was 13.8. The central purpose of these 18 principles is the attainment of transcendental devotional service to the personality of Godhead. Therefore, all classes of men are encouraged to learn the art of devotional service to the Lord. And that's ultimately the highest knowledge. That's what we're here to teach. But also we should understand, especially when we're like presenting this to others, that it's not exactly easy to just convince them like, yeah, that's like the highest thing. There's an actual step-by-step process, and that's what Bhagavad Gita is. There's a step-by-step process to take somebody from the complete ignorance to the idea of maybe you should practice bhakti, or you should definitely practice bhakti. So Bhagavad Gita is that treatise. And even something like the Ishopanishad, the Upanishads, and then there's the Gita Upanishad as well, which is the Gita. These Upanishads help bring people to the realization of the two processes, the path of nescience and the path of knowledge. So there everything is functional, Krishna is teaching. It's not that, sometimes we can get a little carried away and be like, well, I have the highest knowledge, so let me just throw out everything else. And actually you will throw away, I'll read you a verse, that you do throw it away once you have it. After you utilized it, it is time to throw it away. But then also, when you're trying to help others, then sometimes it's good to help them hold their axe and cultivate their knowledge. So we'll go to 11, 12, 24. We're not going to do it on the screen anymore because... Oh, sorry.
I got a question.
What's your question, Manny?
So you say you gotta hold others to hold their acts, to help them cultivate their knowledge.
Well, first we got to help ourselves.
That's what I was gonna say. Does that keep you away from? That's a level of attachment right there to keep you away from actually elevating yourself. Like, wouldn't you just worry kind of just about? You can tell somebody like, hey, help them out, whatever. And once it gets to a point where you're trying to like.
There's, I just read something really nice. It was actually in that, it was in my Chaitanya Charitamrita reading yesterday. There's two types of spiritual practitioners. There's a bhajananandi, which is someone who has their own spiritual practice. They've already figured it out, and they pretty much say, see you later, everyone. And they're in complete rapture with God in their practice, and they're not really interested about the rest of the material world. But then there's also a Goshthiyanandi. And a Goshthiyanandi, while they still practice bhajananandi, that they get actual spiritual bliss from sharing that with others. And actually that's our lineage. That's what Srila Prabhupada was. That's what his Guru Maharaj was. Well, that's what they were called to do. We're actually, in many ways, like for instance, Gorakishora Das Babaji, who was Bhaktisiddhanta's guru, he was more bhajananandi by nature. He wasn't so interested in going out and setting up things for others, But both are extremely valuable, and usually we have to learn from both classes. But we ourselves, it depends. Your nature, your nature might not to be
That's what I was gonna say. It's
a
kind of
Goshti
sounds like
Anandi.
it's like a individual personality. Like you said, the Srila Prabhupada guru wasn't as.
Well, no, Srila Prabhupada's guru was, Srila Prabhupada and his guru were both Goshti Anandis.
Okay.
They were very interested in giving as much mercy to the other living entities as possible, and actually derived great spiritual bliss in that process.
Okay. But you mentioned somebody else. I didn't catch.
Gaura Kishore Das Babaji, he's in the center,
Okay.
where he was more on the path of Bhajananandi, where he was like kind of a forest recluse, and he had his bhakti sadhana, and he would just very intensely practice it. And even people would go to him for instruction, and he would kind of pretend not to be able to give them the instructions because he saw they weren't sincere. And it wasn't until he had some sincere disciples, but Srila Bhakti Siddhanta really fought to be his disciple, like really fought to be his disciple. And so actually you could say, both are important, because the bhajan, the depth of his bhajan that Bhakti Siddhanta learned from him, he then was able to share that depth all over the world. So it's kind of, they're both very important. But I know in ISKCON you could say that Srila Prabhupada, he emphasized a lot this Goshti Anandi path, but the Bhajan Anandi path is valid, very valid. So, but yeah, you have to help yourself
I feel like
before you can help others.
I feel like the guy fought to get his ascension was kept that like that mystery, that mistake, and the
What do you say?
like I don't know. It's just like a personality characteristic of people. Like people that are like quiet and you want to say a word, they're like attract more people. So the other guy was kind of fighting to get his knowledge. He basically begged them to be his disciple.
Well, you could say that, but he begged him with his own devotion and sincerity.
Exactly.
That was
you will find more devotion or like real devotees when you are like that guy kind of.
that is
Because when you preach to everybody, people are like, oh, this guy. But if you keep to yourself, like, and you're just happy on your own, like, people be like, what is your secret to be happy? Like, why are you so happy? Like.
Yeah, no, that's that is true. That's very, very true. I mean,
like we have talked about that, like how people like you talk to it and people are not calling you like, hey,
yeah, there's a proper approach, and even when you're preaching and you're actively trying to spread this knowledge to as many people as possible, there's a way to give it without trying to disturb them too much. And like, okay, they're not ready for this thing. I should not say this thing to them. So it depends. And listen, it's a learning curve. How many times I put my foot in my mouth. I have people regularly telling me in my life that I'm a little rough around the edges and how I'm presenting things sometimes. And the chief is my wife. So this is. But just part of at least my learning curve, but everyone's learning curve. You'll find out what goes well and what does not go well if you choose to share. But the main thing is to have it for you. You have to take to this process. It's an individual process, but you're not alone. You're with Krishna always, and that is the process of understanding this transcendental knowledge of who you really are, because most of the time we have no idea who we are. Like, we are going around forming an identity and a life around it in which we have no idea like who we actually are. So this is the path, as Ishopanishad was saying, traversing what's the process of nescience, where we're falling into complete ignorance, and what is the process of transcendental knowledge. So I'm kind of in this section in Srimad Bhagavatam now. It's in the 11th canto. So if you want, you can repeat after me and we can explore some of these things. 11, 12, 24, we kind of talked about this last week. Thus, by worshipping Guru, by the acts of jnana, made sharp by bhakti, even in a secondary role. That's important, actually. In the beginning, now this is also from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary also, but his translations are what inspired these translations. His commentary and translations. By the acts of jnana made sharp by bhakti, even in a secondary role. Why? Because in the beginning of bhakti, we're not going to just get pure bhakti, right away. We usually have other things we're worrying about first. So that's why Krishna gives you the whole Bhagavad Gita, the process that he gives you, is because actually bhakti is behind all of those paths. Bhakti is what, even who here works? Right? You guys have jobs. Actually, a certain amount of bhakti is giving you the results of your work. And I'll tell you, you have faith. Faith is bhakti, actually. You have faith that if you do a certain amount of hours of work for this person, they'll give you money. So you do it, right? And that's the only reason why you do that work, probably. If they said, well, Madhu, paycheck's no longer coming, but we still want you to come to work. How will you do the work?
Maybe if I was an intern, I would have worked, but not now.
Well, what's that?
Maybe if I was an intern, I would have worked, but not now.
So not now. Yeah, if they gave you a promise in the future, if they gave you faith in something else, then they would. But actually, you do that because of bhakti, believe it or not. So bhakti is there in just a very minute role in most people's jobs. But if you actually begin to take up the path of karma and karma yoga and all these things, and then start to develop jnana about what's really going on in this world, you might start to choose your activities in a different way. You might be like, oh, wait a second. And you start acting by the 18 principles that Srila Prabhupada shared with us. And, these real knowledge, and understand, hey, maybe this is where I'm actually going in the path of nescience. This is how I'm actually going down in ignorance in certain ways. So you start doing these things in balance at the same time. So anyway, he says, thus, by worshipping Guru, by the acts of jnana, this is a very important part of the process, is finding spiritual teacher. Everyone has available Srila Prabhupada via his countless, not countless, you can count them, but there's a lot of spiritual literatures. Everyone has Srila Prabhupada as a potential Shiksha Guru at least, but he has many disciples, and there are many very sincere Gaudiya Vaishnava practitioners in which you can find spiritual guidance. You can find living personalities to guide you in these matters. And if you can't necessarily find them immediately, you can at least sincerely desire that. And Krishna will reciprocate with your sincerity, in some way or another. So he says, by the acts of jnana made sharp by bhakti, even in a secondary role. By being steady, you guys. It's by being steady. There you go. Destroy the subtle body. What's the subtle body again?
Mind, ego.
Mind, intelligence, and false ego. This is tough because most of us completely exist on the platform of what we think. We think what we think is that's reality. But actually that is not reality, and that actually needs to be destroyed by the process of jnana or knowledge, transcendental reality. So destroy that subtle body, and the chief is the false ego, thinking that you are the body. If you think that you are the body, which most of us, we totally identify with this body. Shri Shri Sachi Sutta Nitai Ki, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki, Shri Shri Prahlad Narasimha Ki, Vrinda Devi Tulsi Maharani Ki. So if we think we are this body, and we live and act accordingly, this is the subtle body acting. This isn't actually us, the jiva, the atma. So, destroy the subtle body. And with attention, Attain Paramatma. Attain. So Paramatma is, as Prabhupada was explaining, the super soul, the supreme consciousness that is the foundation of all consciousness. That is the source of your existence. We should be very careful not to think, now yes, I am the super soul. I have achieved it, I am the super soul. This is actually very problematic because it's going back to you thinking you as the jiva, the small jiva, are way more than your position. You are part and parcel. This is attaining Paramatma. It's actually understanding that you're part and parcel. You're part of the Supreme Lord, but you're not in totality the Supreme Lord.
No, I'm laughing because one's got to be really dumb to think that they got all these problems and then all of a sudden like you the super soul.
It's like going back to the false ego.
What's that?
It's going back to the false ego.
Yeah, it's like the last snare of the false ego, actually. It's called Mayavad, and Prabhupada has mentioned it's the last snare of the false ego. Whereas there's just one thing it can't give up. When it learns all this transcendental knowledge, it's just like the one thing it can't give up. The potentiality, I can be something so great. But actually, you can be something way greater than that. And that's just being the part and parcel in service, in bhakti.
Go back to that verse and say you use the axe of knowledge to cut the tree of, what is that tree called?
Well, you could say it's the subtle body. The subtle body, but it's compared to
meaning that you're not releasing that knowledge. You want to hold it to use it like as a power weapon still. That's why you gotta throw it out after you're done.
Yeah, well, that is the process. Actually, and that's what the end of this verse. After he said with attain Paramatma, and he says, then give up. You guys.
Then give up.
The weapon of jnana.
The weapon of jnana.
Yeah. So this is actually the process. First take guru, get your jnana sharp, hone it in, and sharpened by bhakti. Bhakti is the sharpener. Have faith in this jnana process and the knowledge henceforth, and have it very thoroughly make you realize that everything that you're considering in this material world as a source of happiness, that is just not the case. If you just study this material world and how everything operates, you're not going to find most of your conceptions, and definitely the societal conceptions, are just so far incorrect. But once you have firmly established that in yourself, and you're completely free from the tendency to be interacting with the material world, which, I'll be honest, I definitely don't think I'm there. Many things have happened in my life, but I need to, I think, even sharpen this even more, this jnana, and with bhakti. But I don't think I'm ready to throw away the axe yet, because I still have more work to do to chop down the material tree of me thinking that I'm this body and this false ego and mind. So we all very likely need to do this. And who knows, maybe some of you are completely Atmaram, like self-realized souls. But I will say that I'm very likely not. So that's one part of this. And then we're going to go to 11:13:6. Repeat after me. Until one realizes Atma. And destroys the gunas. So these are the foundation behind the mind, intelligence, false ego. It's these three modes of material nature that are acting in this world. But until you realize that you're the spirit soul, and that actually everything that's happening in the material world is similar to a dream, like just like you don't take too much importance to your dreams. Like, you guys all dream? Am I the only one?
No.
Yeah, but like when you wake up, you're like, oh, thank God, that was a dream. Like, especially if it was like a creepy dream. Like, I had a dream that I was like about to get murdered. Like, some psychopath buried a few people in front of me in sand, and I was going next. And then I like woke up. I was like, holy crap, But they're like, thank God that was a dream. But that's actually your real life. Your real life, all the stuff that you're worrying about, all the stuff that you're concocting, when you like come to Atma realization, you'll be like, oh, thank God I woke up to like all that crazy stuff that I was just pretty much, you're creating a dream. This world is compared to a dream over and over and over again in the Bhagavatam.
It's the dream of the God.
What?
It's the dream of the God.
Yeah. Well, you can say it's like maybe it's like the dream of the super soul in so many different forms, but it's really your dream. It's your individual dream of just creating something that's not. It's not. It's not reality. This is called Maya or ignorance. So until one realizes Atma and destroys the gunas and the gross and subtle bodies, so yeah, your gross and subtle body has to be destroyed at some point. At some point, Now, what that might not look like. All right, everyone, let's line up, and my wife made a special Kool-Aid today. It's not it's not gonna look like that. But we should realistically actually. I'm not gonna. That's not the process. Actually, there's a way to destroy the gross and subtle body, even having the same shell. Not to say I know anyone who necessarily achieved it, but that's the scriptures do talk of that possibility.
About what? Can you repeat that, please? I'm sorry.
Even in the same gross body, you can have a completely spiritual body. It's possible, but it's not. But that's not something that I know how to do, or I know anyone who's teaching. That's.
What do you mean? So you can like.
It can be completely spiritualized. It can be. If.
Like off somebody.
What's that?
What are we talking about?
No, I don't know what you're talking about anymore.
What's the example?
I was talking about the Kool-Aid, and then now, what do you say next?
Someone doesn't necessarily need to die to achieve this. What I'm mentioning in this verse. Kool-Aid is Kool-Aid is like an American drink that isn't so good. Pretty much, it was a joke with bad taste, but there have been like groups of people who've like actually convinced everyone to poison themselves via this Kool-Aid. It's a common expression. It's just a crappy American processed drink. It's really all it is. It's just like a crappy drink. But it's like a flat soda, you could say.
It's like sugar.
We're spending way too much time on Kool-Aid.
It was actually Flavor-Aid.
It was Flavor-Aid in the actual.
It's powder, right?
Yeah.
Glucon-D.
So it's just a crappy processed drink. It's not prasadam. All right, this is all right. I'm gonna pull it back. All right, here we go. No more. All right. So, and destroys the gunas in the gross and subtle bodies. One must use sattvic items. Oh, you could say that. One to increase sattva, which increases dharma, and then gives rise to jnana. So this is kind of Krishna, both in Bhagavad Gita and then now this is in his Hamsa avatar form. This is the instruction he was giving to the four Kumaras. To also, become self-realized, Atma-realized. But it's not so easy, It's not so like, all right, well, I know I'm a spirit soul and let me just go figure out everything else I want to do. We might theoretically know, but how are we actually acting? Have we destroyed the gunas, the material modes of nature, and how they're acting on us? Are our gross and subtle bodies also destroyed? Or do we have a completely pure spiritual body? Are we not being impacted by the modes of nature via our mind anymore? No, good chance we're not. That's not the case. So we must use sattvic items to increase sattva, which increases dharma. Dharma is learning how to act properly according to the scriptures. So also the scriptures are, And then this will give rise to jnana. By learning how to act in accordance with the scriptures, then we can actually have knowledge. So that's 11:13:6. Now I'm going to go to 11:13:13. Just compiled a few. Now there's a lot. I mean, you're going to want to read this one day. You're going to want to read the Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm just giving you little like tasters. And actually, you're not going to want to start on this chapter. You're going to want to start on Canto 1, verse 1, and read all of Prabhupada's purports. It's really nice, actually. But this is kind of the process to get there. Being attentive. A person should master. The yoga procedures of breathing and sitting properly. And without giving up effort, should gradually fix the mind in me at the appropriate times. So this is actually going to be a higher knowledge. This is one of the things that you get in knowledge, is this process of meditation, of yoga. And ultimately, a lot of our bhakti sadhana practices are related to a lot of these instructions that Krishna is giving on meditation.
I'm sorry, Matt. I'm sorry. I know I'm
Yeah, what's that?
But I got a question. It says at the appropriate times. You should fix your mind in me and at the appropriate time.
Yes, there are proper times.
Where is
Like,
any,
well, I'll read the purport. Commentary, it says, the word atandritaha, being careful or alert, from the previous verses explained. Where should the mind be engaged? It should be engaged in me. If the mind is not under control, one should not give up efforts. So that wasn't so helpful. But
At least 3 times a day, so it's like dawn, noon, and sunset.
yeah, there's Sandhya hours to do these things. Actually, that is mentioned. But there's times for meditation and there's times to do your daily duties. Like this. Like for instance, when we do our morning program, the Brahma Muhurta time is a time for a lot of these meditative practices and proper practices. Ideally, but then there may come times, and this happens to me like every day, where like I have to finish my supposed japa meditations, but I have to kind of rush to do it, or I'm like, it's getting late and I'm not like fully in the right, frame of atmosphere to do it, but I made a vow to do it, so I continue. But actually there is appropriate times and places, and
that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Talking about earlier about realistically and balance, because my life is very happy.
yeah, we're all entangled in so many things. So, not to say though that you just make progress. You take steps, step by step by step, and you can come closer. I'm just showing you what Krishna is saying. Here's here, and then we can have to realize like, oh wait, I think I'm like 20 feet underground right now. And that's fair. That's a fair assessment, And we just got to work our way up.
Thank you.
No problem. So, okay. So 13:13, showing you that. Now we'll do 11:13:33. Considering that the 3 states of the intelligence arising from the gunas are created by Maya Vidya. 1. What are the gunas? Goodness, passion, and ignorance, right? These modes of nature that we're conditioned by. And created by Maya Vidya. What's avidya?
Vidya is knowledge, but Maya Vidya is knowledge on the material world.
So yeah, avidya is that actually the process of ignorance. Krishna's energy of bewilderment. And that's what we're all part of right now. We're associating with Krishna's avidya, pretty much bewildering us from actually caring about anything that's really valuable. So So considering that the three states of the intelligence
So considering that the three states of intelligence
arising from the gunas
arising from the Guru
are created by my avidya
created by my avidya
within me,
within me,
being firmly convinced
being firmly convinced
of your nature as Atma,
of your nature as Atma,
and cutting the three states
and cutting the three states
by the sharp sword of knowledge,
by the sharp sword of knowledge,
by inference.
by inference.
So this is, let me actually, I remember when I read this, I Googled the word inference, but it might actually be important to, I think it has to do with your own like evidence and like reasoning.
What's the word?
Yeah. So it's a conclusion reached on the basis of evidence and reasoning. So that's an inference. So by your ability to infer. So that's also a part of things. So you should use your own ability to reason and understand things through the sharp sword of knowledge, through this process of knowledge. And by scriptural statements.
And by scripture statements.
That's where all this knowledge is coming from. Worship me,
Worship me,
the destroyer of all doubts.
the destroyer of all doubts.
So this is actually where the information to worship and do bhakti comes from. You know, it's at the platform of knowledge. You know, that's his instruction. Now, you know, we might have to take all the other steps first. We might not, you know, get there, or you know, we try our best. You know, Prabhupada is giving us such a merciful process here. Being able to take to Krishna consciousness. And all of this is part of Krishna consciousness. Even the karma yoga part and the jnana yoga part. And we want to get to bhakti. We want to hope that we've you know, we're able to like I said, bhakti is actually guiding everything. Even your work and your paycheck is, you do it due to some level of bhakti. But to actually put bhakti above all these other processes, you have to develop an incredible amount of faith in the Lord. And the Lord will test you every day how strong is your faith. You know, like, you know, I had my wife and I, we woke up the other night and I was like 3 or 4 inches underwater, our whole basement. And we were like, oh my God, you know, and I almost like cried. Because I didn't know what the water was. I thought it could have been sewage. And I was like, you know, I was like, am I like ankle deep in sewage right now? It turned out it wasn't such a bad thing. And, you know, we had a whole mess for a few days. And we're just now kind of cleaning up from it all. But, you know, that was a significant, you know, test of faith with me. What are you trying to show me? Like, what is actually trying to be shown to me here? And so everything in the world is kind of give you that opportunity. Like, what are you trying to show me? Is this nescience right here, or is this part of the transcendental knowledge process? Or can I see you in this, Krishna? Can I see you in me ankle deep in some sewage water right now? You know, that was it wasn't like sewage water. We found it was mostly like regular water, but someone threw bricks down our sewage pipe. That's how it happened. Do you believe that? That's pretty mean. Like, yeah, it is messed up. But anyway, what can be done, actually? It's just part of it. So, let me see. So, worship me, the destroyer of all doubts. You know, and this is...
Worship me, the destroyer of all doubts.
Yeah, cool. So now we're getting to some bhakti. So one should understand, this is 34, that this world is a misconception, a diversion for the mind, visible but temporary, and flickering like a firebrand. What is a firebrand? Isn't that like, you know, like what's that? I think it's like a firebrand, it says. I think it has to do with something that, I don't know. Maybe we can Google it, may help us. Let's see.
Fire what?
Firebrand.
It's one word.
So it's like kind of just like a piece of burning wood that's like kind of flickering and then gone.
Yeah, we do that in Diwali. So.
Okay, that you guys like spin around and
Yeah,
things like that.
Who's
Okay.
ready?
Fulgari.
It's
Okay.
a one word.
Firebrand.
Firebrand. It's not that important, I don't think. It's that it's flickering that's important. Okay, Brahman
Brahman
is one consciousness,
is one consciousness,
but manifest as many.
as many.
The three states
The three states
arising by the gunas
arising by the gunas
create various transformations,
create various transformations,
but these are temporary,
but these are temporary,
like a dream.
like a dream.
So this is kind of where we're at in our misconceptions of the world. We're living in a dream and we got to wake up. You know, we should have that relief that, oh, thank God, that was a dream. But like we're creating so many dreams in the temporary material world. Like what can we do? So Krishna is telling us the process. Actually, about to tell us the process of bhakti. Withdrawing one's vision
Withdrawing one's vision
from the visible world
from the visible world
and giving up material desire,
and giving up material desire,
one should remain silent,
one should remain silent,
realizing the happiness
realizing the happiness
of Atma,
of Atma,
that's you as the soul, without performing actions.
without performing actions.
That's interesting. Remember, there's a whole process of how to do actions before them. You should check where are we on the actual spectrum here. So this is just kind of a projection into the future of this process. And there's also an understanding about how we can do this in the modern age too, in Kali Yuga, because this was not in Kali Yuga. Even if one observes
Even if one observes
the world,
one
will not
will not
be bewildered
be bewildered
by what was previously perceived
by what was previously perceived
by false intelligence
by false intelligence
and was already rejected.
and was already rejected.
Only the remembrance
Only the remembrance
of samsara
of samsara
remains
remains
until death of the body.
until death of the body.
So it's pretty much once you see it, you can't unsee it. Like once you see the crapshoot that this material world is, you're just not going to be able to unsee it. And once you like have actually like rejected these things, is like, oh, that's never going to make me happy. You could try and enjoy it, but you just can't. It's like in your heart, you just like, no, like this sucks, you know, like, and I hate to be the one to do that, to help, help facilitate that experience for you, but I'm actually very glad to do it as well, like, because it's a dream, it's like,
You want some water, bro? Want some water?
he's happy, he's actually bubbling with excitement.
Okay.
Kaushik, I need some enthusiasm, so thank you for sharing yours.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. So, okay. The perfected sage is not aware whether he is seated or standing while situated in the temporary body. Since he has realized Brahman, he is like a drunken man who is not aware of receiving and putting on clothing or taking off his clothing. So that is just a state I know nothing about. But you can actually, one thing I can compare it to, there's many, especially in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's many descriptions of devotees who are completely immersed in their bhakti practices. And they look like madmen to the rest of the world. They're dancing, they're chanting, they're rolling, they're laughing. And, the rest of the world would look at them and be like, what is that crazy fellow doing? But actually they're experiencing the truth of spiritual bliss. And that's like what actually the completely enlightened soul is going to look like a lunatic to everyone else. So if you're starting to feel that people around you think you're a little nuts, that's actually okay. Maybe you're actually getting somewhere in life. It depends who you're around. If you're around just the devotees, then it's like, you know.
Everybody call Noah crazy until it started raining.
What's that?
Everybody call Noah crazy until it started raining.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a lot of, you see this in a lot of different aspects where people who, they were rejected as crazy, even while they were alive, and then after they were, you know, they moved on and everyone was like, oh wow, this person was great. You know, like Nikola Tesla is a common example, you know, he was, you know, this crazy inventor guy, and, you know, like he had all these wild ideas, and, you know, he created like half of the things that we benefit from in the modern age. But, you know, he was like kind of like kooky. I think he had like some weird pet bird he had a weird relationship with, and he like was completely celibate, which for the material host of people, they're like, that's nuts. That's crazy, you know. And so,
Very lonely.
yeah, you know, yeah, like a kind of a renunciate type, you know. But this is actually,
Didn't he die at the devotee?
I don't know about that. That's I won't speak to that, but I don't think so. I don't think he discovered bhakti, but anyway. So anyway, that's kind of what a perfected sage, you might not be able to recognize who the perfected sage, what they look like. Very good chance you don't. You might actually discard them and think they're a nut. But that's that's actually
That's why we gotta recognize the parama in everybody's heart. Not.
well, that's, you know, this is true. And then also, you know, if we understand this process of knowledge, we may be able to recognize. So this is important, to actually recognize what the sage looks like. So anyway, we'll keep reading one more verse. As long as the body, under the control of karma, continues its karmas. So karma is action and reaction. Like, as long as you're still under the control of, you know, action and reaction in what you're doing, even though when one does take to the bhakti process, you're not getting the same actions and reactions that everybody else is getting. There is verses and understanding of this. But from kind of just the blank platform where let's say we haven't cultivated much bhakti yet, that's, as long as the body under the control of karma continues its karmas, the person who has perfected yoga continues to live, but does not experience pleasures of the material body, endowed with senses and sense objects, just as a person who has awoken from sleep does not experience a dream body any longer. So this is a little, this is like some high-level esoteric stuff, but main thing is that when we only focus on the senses and the sense objects, and we think this is going to provide happiness, it's actually proven to be the very thing that gives us misery time and time again, because we get attached to them, and we get frustrated when we can't get them all the time, because the mind is unlimitedly thinking about these things. Now, there are processes, and he's just about to get there, where he starts glorifying the process of bhakti. And you can actually engage your senses and the sense objects in Krishna. And he tells us how to do that, and there's a whole process on how to do that. But we should also know why we should do that, and why it's necessary that we do that. Because anything else that we're doing is but a dream. So, O Brahmanas, know that I am Vishnu. This is Vishnu speaking. Who has come with the desire to teach you Dharma. I have spoken the confidential knowledge of Sankhya and Ashtanga Yoga. O best of the Brahmanas, please know that I am the supreme shelter of the yoga system, analytic philosophy, seeing equally, speaking pleasantly, influence, beauty, fame, and self-control. All superior qualities, which are eternal, such as equality to all beings, and attachment to my devotee, reside in me, who am beyond the material gunas, not dependent on material qualities, and the devotee's friend, giving love to them. So this is going to actually spark Uddhava to ask what the processes for perfecting one's life are like in this Uddhava Gita. And he's going to start to glorify, Krishna is going to start to glorify the Bhakti Yoga process. And similarly in Bhagavad Gita, just at the end, he really, after 6 chapters of jnana, knowledge, he kind of pretty much sets the firm foundation. Actually, by your devotion to me, you're going to get through all of this. So my hope is that you guys, there was more I could have read, but we're not going to have time. My hope is that you guys have suitably realized that this material world around you is not going to be the source of your happiness, and that the happiness that that is promoted here in this world and by society is but a dream. They literally call it the American dream. It's a dream. And I really hope you guys get to wake up from this dream. And that, and to not necessarily think that this may not apply to us, because very realistically, we have not completely destroyed the influence of the material modes of nature upon us. And that we are very swayed by the ways of the world, in still many ways, and our mind is very swayed by the ways of the world. So please, continue joining with us, associating with us. We are looking for a community here that is satsang, a community focused in truth, in higher knowledge and higher wisdom. And then ultimately, the pinnacle of that highest knowledge is the process of love and devotion. But before we can tell you all about that, it is important to even convince you to even consider it. Because that is actually where the real happiness is going to reside, in the source of all happiness. And our relationship with that supreme being, that supreme consciousness, which we call Krishna consciousness, is the science on how to do that. So anyway, what do you guys think? Any questions, or kind of a little heavy again, 2 weeks in a row? Real sober. Real sober crowd here. And what's that? Yeah, go ahead, man. If no one else wants to say anything.
I'm just saying, I feel like, the purpose, the purpose again, you just gotta, in the material world, obviously, in the scriptures, what it keeps being repeated is that you're gonna service something, no matter what you do. You're gonna be a servant of something, and you're gonna, whether it's your mind, your job, the people around you, your partner, your kids, your whatever, your mom, your dad, but none of that is gonna tell you the truth, because everybody has in the material world, everybody has a selfish desire that is gonna, like help them. So even if it's like your parents, they still have their selfish desires is for you to be good. So they're gonna try to control you. So if you service your parents, you're gonna have conflict. But if you service or your partner or your kids or your whatever, but if you service God, it's just like everything gets pleased at once. So it's like you gotta realize, one, like, what's the purpose of this life, this human life? To me, that was the beginning. Like, what am I here for? And then now I'm learning how to balance and be, with the help of you guys, being realistic about how can I service God the best way I can without becoming like overwhelmed by that service, where I'm still like not enjoying but giving my full potential to that service. So I'm learning that through this process. Obviously it's a very gradual thing, because when we pick up on, like, I have discovered that when we pick up on like bad habits, everything will happen just at once. So for you to pick up this kind of life and even the habits of service in the Supreme is gonna be a gradual step by step. Because when I was in the material world drinking beers, I didn't just one day grab 30 beers and drink 30 beers or 20 beers or whatever amount. I'm not saying this will be fun, it's just a number. I'll probably drink less beer than that, or probably more sometimes. But it's just like a thing that is like, you gotta really be disciplined, but it's a fine line between being disciplined and actually like putting yourself down when you are not doing it how you want to do it, like all at once, So I've come to understand, and I'm still understanding that it's a very just like you pick up bad habits again. You gotta go little by little, step by step. One day you do more. As you do more, like you told me one time, like just try to do more the next day. Then if you chant 5 times, maybe tomorrow do 6. Same process when reducing bad habits. If you was smoking 3 cigarettes yesterday, and I'll try to smoke 2 today, and so on and so on. And I feel like God, I have come to understand that as long as I do my best, nobody can judge me, not even that voice in my head. There is a man in me to follow the path that I know that will guide me through knowledge. So that's what I have to say.
I'm very happy to hear your realizations, man.
Thank you.
You're doing great, and we're happy to have you here. And
sometimes I feel like I could do better.
Yeah, we all can do better. But sometimes just not going down is good too. just not So that's really good.
Not happening.
So that's So I hope we all can continue waking up from this dream, or not just the American dream, but the societal dream of ultimate happiness in things that can never make you happy, and actually approach this path that actually can make you happy, that can give you the knowledge on how to establish that relationship, with what's really going on behind the curtain. I don't know if you ever watched The Wizard of Oz. There's some guy controlling the illusion of this, how this whole system works. But so Krishna's also behind the screen, and he's got all these modes of material nature creating a really compelling dream, but it is but a dream. And then when we wake up from this societal dream, we can actually, just like when we wake up in our dreams at night, we can go and do the things we find important, but we can take the real importance of what the soul needs. So,
I want to say one last thing too. Like also, like I mentioned bad habits, and a lot of people think bad habits is just like smoking or drinking, this and that. It's also a lot of little subtle things like judging others, feeling better than others. That a lot of people they are in this lifestyle of like bhakti and really started, you know what I mean, acting that way. That also is a bad habit that will bring you down from that and won't allow you to actually go higher in this process. So, you know, like every day, let's just do a little less gossiping, a little less judging others, a little less, you know what I mean, looking down people down, like, cause at the end of the day, you guys know and everybody knows that stuff doesn't sit right, like, in with this process and with God. So I'm just very all over the place, but I'm very observant too. So yeah, just want to say that.
Thank you. And
that's part of the soda body.
Yeah,
habits.
You're talking about a process called anartha nivritti, which is like removing the
I don't know the names because actually I'm not.
But it's a bona fide. You're saying a bona fide thing, but it's the process of just removing the unwanted things for your devotional and spiritual process. And there's plenty of them, and you mentioned some of them, and looking at others with contempt and things like this is. There's so many snares of the subtle and gross body that are keeping us down. Madhu?
Yeah, so we know, like, we were talking about the dream, like, like each and every day we dream, and we know, like, it's not a real thing. And can we control the dream? Like, if I go back home and sleep, like, I know, like, when it is dreaming, I realize it's not, I realize it's a real thing. No, I mean, like, when I wake up, I realize it's not a real thing which happened. And during dreaming, can I realize it's a dream?
Sometimes.
And can I continue the dream which I had last night or like the previous? Like, can I continue from there?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert dreamer, so maybe I'm expert in dreaming about the material world, because that's that one I'm very compelled.
Can we control what is going to happen? Like, can we have the control?
Yeah, I don't know anybody who can fully control, but maybe I know there are people who are studying lucid dreaming and things. There is a science behind it, but it's just not an interest of mine at all. I'm trying to stop the dreams, and kind of wake up to the spiritual reality. That's my personal preference. I know that's the preference of our acharyas, but I'm not educated nor interested necessarily in furthering the dream, trying to remove the dream, because the dream is not reality. There is a spiritual reality, so we can hopefully discover. All right, so I think that has to be the last thing, because it's like 1:30. Sita should be ready. Would you guys like to do like maybe a 5-minute kirtan and then eat prasad? Is that okay?
Yeah.
And even though prasad may also be contemplated with the senses and all these other things, because it was offered in bhakti with love and devotion, it actually helps us wake up from the dream. And helps nourish us to continue making process down this path. Mukunda, are you doing an arati?
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll just keep going.
You'll just keep going after? Maybe just start after it. We'll just do. Yeah, so that way there's not an offense. So, any potential mridanga players? Do you want to? Go ahead. So thank you guys all for coming. We're honored to have you all. I hope you guys get to enjoy Prasadam. Yeah, what a great group we have here. You're so devotional. It's so nice, actually. So I wish you all success. We're going to have a special program on Friday of this week. Why Friday? Because it's the advent of the Bhagavad Gita. It's also a very special day in this tradition where it's called a Kadashi. On this day you would traditionally fast from at least grains and beans, but maybe many other things as well, and do very little material activities and as much spiritual activity as you can. So this Friday is the advent of Bhagavad Gita. We're going to have a special program, so you're all invited. And next Sunday, we're still going to also have program, but me and my wife will not be here. Ben may or may not have responsibilities with family. But we're going to still do something here at the ashram, even if it's a small gathering. So maybe RSVP for that one. But yeah, other than that, we also have a New Year's retreat perspective. We'll see. Let us know if you want to be involved in the New Year's retreat, and that will determine whether we're going to go through with organizing it all, because we have very little so far people being like, yes, let's do it, we're doing this. So if you guys are committed, we'll be committed, but let us know. But anyway, enjoy Prasad. Thank you so much. Sorry it's a little over. And Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Ram. So nice to see you. Okay, can I have that laptop, Yoshi? Thank you so much for anyone who potentially joined online.